So, you just applied to TELUS as a US rater, and realized the guidelines are 180 pages long. Good news? I'm here to break it down for you to save you some time. I'm going to focus on the most important pieces and share insights from my 5 years of experience as a rater. The kind of first-hand info you won't find in the official guidelines. And even if you don't pass the exam on your first try, your efforts here won't be wasted. Whether you reapply later, pursue similar roles, or simply want a better understanding of search quality and user intent, this information will be valuable to you. I'll start by highlighting the key points that apply to the entire exam. Later on, I'll go into detail more about each separate part, including clear examples. But first things first, let's talk about your role here. You're stepping into the shoes of an average search engine user. If you've ever used Google, congratulations, you can do this job. From this perspective, your main task is to rate websites based on 3 important criteria. That is page quality, how well the results meet the user's needs, which is known as NeedMet, and where each page lands on the rating scale. Now let's talk about the exam prep that I used. I've read the guidelines 3 times. Relax, don't worry, I'll summarize it for you here, and give examples at the end. Did I read every word? No, but I made sure to glance through every page and really focused on the major concepts, which I'll be sharing with you shortly. Was 3 times overkill? Maybe. But I did pass on my first try, and I have been working here for 5 years, so I must have done something right. My friend, however, he passed the first 2 parts, but failed the third. And then when I asked him if he read the guidelines like I suggested, he said he didn't even touch them. So use that how you will. Let's break it down. You get about 7 days, but always check the email that they sent you just to make sure it hasn't changed. Day 1, I spent skimming the whole document. I focused on the big picture, ideas like page quality, needs met, and went over a few examples. Day 2, I skimmed it again just in case I missed anything major, and just to reinforce the main concepts. I made sure to get good nights of sleep, just to make sure that all the information was retained well. Day 3, I had the guidelines open while beginning part 1 of the exam. It's an open book, so use whatever information that you can. Let's start with what I think is the easiest part of the exam, and I think many would agree. It's about 40 true or false questions, give or take. Again, it's been about 5 years, but this seems to be right on the money. What you're going to want to do is learn how to use Control F. If you've never used Control F, if you have a Windows computer, press Control, and then you guessed it, F, and then you can search an entire document. You're going to want to be using this the entire time while taking the first part of the exam and the other parts as well. But it's probably more important here. Whenever you see a question such as, what's the easiest part of the exam? You could type in easiest, and it'll show you every place that the word easiest appears in that document. Then you can click the up or down arrow to go exactly to that part. Why this is useful is because if the question contains the word, you can usually assume in the document that the answer is going to follow shortly afterwards, so this will help save you some time skipping through 180 pages. They've also begun doing webinars and practice tests. I believe I took a practice test when I first started the exam back 5 years ago, but I'm not sure if they had the webinars. Either way, use all of the available tools that they give you because you can probably assume that the practice tests are going to be almost exactly what's going to be on the exam. And then final thoughts for part 1, the pacing. This part should feel pretty manageable, but take your time. There's no extra credit for speed. Remember, I spent 3 full days reviewing the guidelines before taking the test, and I'm glad I did. You want to treat it like a marathon. Parts 2 and 3 are the hard ones. They're actually going to wear you out mentally. So take breaks, stay refreshed, don't rush. Part 1 may be easy, but just make sure you give it your full focus, utilize Control F to really guarantee you're getting these answers 100% correct. And then you'll have 4 more days to complete the other 2 parts of the exam. So with that being said, let's jump into the most important thing to learn for parts 2 and 3, the sliding scale. So to rate quickly and accurately, the method that I use is I start by eliminating the extremes. That is the lowest end and the highest end. And the reason I do that is because spotting something that's obviously awful or obviously excellent is usually a little bit easier. It's the middle ratings that require a little bit more thought and nuanced. But once you clear out the extremes, you've narrowed down the range and made your job simpler. You can then work your way into the middle to really give it some thought. Me personally, I like to start the lowest end of the scale. The reason I do that is because these are the worst pages you'll come across. At best, they are completely useless. At worst, they actually can harm users. Knowing whether something is dangerous usually comes pretty quickly. So what exactly makes a page lowest? It might intentionally mislead the user, utilizing a fake identity, or not giving any information at all. It could have an unclear purpose, or a fake one designed to harm users in some way. It could contain scams, fraud, or malware. Like I said, there's no real user benefit. Maybe it's just designed to make ad money, or it could even be trying to steal users' data. It might be full of copied content, or even AI-generated gibberish, which, as the years go on, I only suspect is going to get worse. Remember, despite being useless, these sites can actually cause real harm by spreading false information, targeting vulnerable users, or promoting hate speech. Some red flags you'll recognize right away are pop-up overload, those sketchy sites where the fake X button just open up more ads, those. Spammy lists like fake top 10 articles clearly copied from somewhere else that have an ad in between each item on the list. They have no transparency, such as no author name, no contact information, no about me page, nothing. Lastly, broken layouts or strange navigation. It is possible that the site is just under construction, but if the entire site has a bunch of broken links or links that lead to places you wouldn't expect, making navigation nearly impossible, you can assume it's rated lowest. And when you see that combination of misleading, dangerous, and no real user benefit, you're almost certainly looking at a lowest page. You may have noticed that the worst pages, the ones we rate lowest, often have something in common. They could all directly affect someone's health, finances, or safety in a harmful way. That's what we like to call a YMYL page, short for your money or your life. These pages are held to a much higher standard. If a page has a potential to cause serious harm, it should always be rated lowest. And that includes things like health misinformation, like claiming bleach can cure cancer, financial scams, such as bad crypto advice or fake investments, or even legal lies, for example, telling people to evade taxes using forged documents. Essentially, if it can hurt someone's life or livelihood, even just a little, it's rated lowest without question. Now let's jump to the opposite side of the spectrum, the highest end of the scale. This rating is used sparingly. It's reserved for the absolute best of the best. We're talking elite sources with clear authority, trust, and accuracy. This is what we called EAT, or EEAT. That's for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trust. Notice how lowest pages usually lack all of these. Highest pages should excel at them all. What exactly are we looking for when it comes to these highest websites? Typically, we're looking for government and university sources. These are typically very trustworthy, such as .gov and .edu websites. Official brand websites like Nike when it comes to Nike products, as well as Apple when it comes to Apple products. The brand websites would typically have the highest authority when it comes to their own products. We also have major platforms such as Google, Amazon, and YouTube, as well as top-tier news outlets, nonprofits, and magazines. These can also qualify, but they take a little bit more effort in researching their reputation. Even with big names, make sure the page has high-quality, accurate information, and isn't just coasting on reputation alone. Highest is a big deal, so don't give it out lightly, but when the page really earns it, don't be afraid to use it. Now that we've covered the extremes, we can work our way to the middle. Medium range ratings usually give a little bit more leeway, usually within 3 notches. Think low plus, medium, medium plus. Don't stress too much about the exact notch. Just ask yourself, does this page lean more towards the low end or the high end? And then we can fine tune it from there. A medium page isn't exactly harmful, but it's not impressive either. It gets the job done. The content is okay, the layout works, and the trust is there, but it's pretty basic. There are no red flags, but also nothing really special stands out either. We call this nothing special, but nothing bad. Let's do a quick example. On screen, you'll see a side-by-side comparison table. This is like a simplified page quality grid you might use on the exam. Here's one possible way you could fill it out. Let's say that the main content on the page is well written, clearly by an expert. That'll be 1 point for highest. But the page purpose is overloaded with ads and feels too profit-driven, to the point of being distracting to most users. That'll be a point for low. And finally, the EAT is just okay. Not amazing, not terrible. So we mark that as medium. If we add it all up, the page would average out to be about medium. And so long as we rate it somewhere on the slider, low plus, medium, medium plus, you'll be on the right track. Now that we understand how to use the sliding scale for page quality, that brings us into part 3, for needs met. What makes part 3 unique is that you're not just rating the landing page, you're actually rating how well the result actually meets the user's need based on their prompt. This is all about intent. Let's start with one of the hardest parts, the fully meets rating. Marked as fully meets. This is a special case. You can only use it when the prompt has a clear, specific intent and the result completely satisfies it. There is no follow-up that would be needed. For example, somebody would type in Barack Obama's height. The correct answer would be whatever his height is, and as long as that's accurate, that would be fully meets. Now here's where it can get tricky. Some prompts have multiple possible meanings, or what we like to call interpretations. For example, if someone searches Apple, do they mean the fruit or the company? So, with that being said, a dominant interpretation is what most people would likely mean when they search. For example, if someone searches hot dog, they would most likely be looking for the food, not a dog who is hot. When it comes to a common interpretation, most users would expect to see multiple options, like when we discussed the apple, when it could be the fruit or the company, things like that. And lastly, a minor interpretation. This applies to a small group of users. For example, if Apple was the name of a city, this might be relevant to a few people who actually live in that city, but for anybody else, they would expect to see the company or the fruit. And the needs met rating must reflect how well a result supports that interpretation. You will also come across 2 types of result blocks. SCRBs, which are known as special content result blocks. Here, you mainly rate the block itself. But if many users would likely click through, then you must evaluate both the block and the landing page itself. And the second kind is just web page search result blocks. These always require a click through, so you have to evaluate only the landing page. A few common terms we might run into is let's know versus know simple. No queries are broad and complex, while no simple queries are direct and factual, similar to our Obama's height prompt that we had earlier. A more broad version of that would just be Barack Obama. You don't exactly know what the user is looking for, so you can't have fully meets, but any information relevant to Barack Obama could still be useful. Some other possible intents are do, which means the user wants to perform an action like download a file or make a purchase. VIP, or visit in person. This is pretty self-explanatory. That means the location matters, like searching for a nearby McDonald's. The user actually wants to go there and visit. And finally, website intents. Website means that they're trying to get to a specific website, like typing in Facebook login, www.apple.com, things like that. You might see some not safe for work content. If so, just follow the flagging guidance in the exam instructions. It's quick, straightforward, and you'll know when to apply. You'll typically rate 5 results side by side, but many may be duplicates, sometimes up to 4, and those often get auto-marked, but if they're not, just mark them yourselves. Don't expect to score all 10 results separately. Just focus on a diverse set of responses. If one side has more unique, helpful results, it's typically the better side, and I'll give some examples of that in 1 second. Before I jump into the example, I just want to say thank you for watching this far. It truly means a lot to me. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch, and if you enjoyed the content, consider showing some extra support by dropping a sub. It helps push me one step closer to monetization so I can keep doing this more often. If you'd like access to more examples or the tools used in this video, such as the page quality grid, let me know in the comments below so I can start working on that next. As you can tell, this is a beautiful website. It achieves its purpose very well. The purpose is clearly to inspire and showcase design excellence, and it's executed flawlessly. It has custom-built animations, typography, layout, and it even has interactivity to show exceptional talent when clicking between different links. Every design element is original, custom-coded, and artistically presented. Some of the things that I've not even seen in any other website. It demonstrates extraordinary design skill and modern web development experience. It also, of course, has the contact information for the author, as well as studio details, and clear purpose is provided. It's endorsed by awards, a top authority in digital design, and it gives it strong independent reputation. It also has fast load times, clean navigation, mobile responsiveness, and no clutter, and most importantly, no distractions. I'm going to let this video finish playing out just so you can see the website a little bit more, and at the very end, I'm going to show you the page quality rating guide that I filled out. Now, after doing the highest, I'm going to do an example of the lowest, and it should be pretty immediately obvious what makes this page lowest. Of course, as far as purpose, clarity, and achievement is concerned, it fails to meet any user needs. Its purpose is very unclear amid all the chaos. The main content, quality, and effort is very uncurated, it's low in value, and shows no meaningful effort. As far as originality and skill is concerned, it haphazardly assembles a bunch of different products with no clear design intent. There's no expertise, transparency, author information, or trust signals anywhere. It lacks any meaningful site information, contact details, or clarity of information. It is deemed one of the worst by web design authorities and critics. And it's obviously completely chaotic, unresponsive, disorienting, with no usable navigation, and even if it did, I don't think I'd want to click through the links very often, because I don't trust it. If I were to fill out the grid live here for this page, as far as the main content is concerned, I would say it's probably lowest to low. I mean, there's obviously a lot of main content on there, but it's kind of hard to distinguish, and it's very distracting. I would probably be generous. I am usually a little bit more lenient when rating, so I'd probably say low quality. As far as highly untrustworthy, unreliable, unauthoritative, inaccurate, misleading, I think it's safe to say that's unauthoritative because we don't know who's actually making this webpage. We have no idea what their experience is with these products here. I did do some actual website reputation, and it doesn't appear that this is a malicious site or a scam. So it does appear to be a legit website, just an ugly one. Likewise, there's no information on the actual webpage itself. So that's actually a pretty big red flag, obviously, because people are spending their money, so you would want to be able to know who is receiving your money, so it's not just being thrown away. As far as the supplementary content, there's obviously a large amount of prominent, highly distracting, and unhelpful and obstructive supplementary content. That is 100% true. Very difficult to distinguish main content from the supplementary content and ads. Honestly, there's just so much going on the page. I don't even think that this page had ads, but man, does it not even matter. There's just way too much going on. And finally, the website is not maintained or cared for. I genuinely couldn't tell you. I'm just going to assume that it's not because it hasn't been updated, fixed. I'm going to assume it's not updated because everything is overlapping here, so someone clearly doesn't care. As far as the page goes, this is honestly pretty safe to say that this is one of the lowest pages. While not an outright scam, it is essentially useless for what it's trying to achieve. And that is, what is it trying to achieve? Sell users products. And now I'm going to do one more rating on the fly here. Now that we kind of understand how page quality works, let's actually understand part 3, which is NeedMet. How much do these pages actually meet the needs of our prompt? So I'm going to come up with a prompt here. I want to do... Let's do a shopping one, maybe. What could I go for? Let's do Nintendo Switch 2. And let's assume that these were the pages that first appeared when we did this search. We would be able to click through here to see Walmart, Target, QVC. I actually don't know what QVC is. I know eBay, Macy's, and Walmart, right? So a special content block might contain all 6 of these, maybe just 3 of these, and then you would go on and click through each one individually, just to make sure each one opens up. And then from there, you would actually grade the page. For pages that I'm not very familiar with, that pop-up would be a point against. This would also be kind of annoying. So this page is, like I was going to say, this page is, I'm not very familiar with it, and it's already kind of annoying. So this page quality would definitely get dinged a little bit here, just because of those annoying pop-ups, and I would have to do some more research on what QVC even is. It could be well known. I don't know what it is. Next is Target. I'm very familiar with Target. Now, Target would get dinged here because I'm looking for a Nintendo Switch 2, but this web page is out of stock, so this page is actually sort of useless to me, right? So this wouldn't actually be helpful. So that would also be sort of a ding towards meeting my needs. Lastly, Walmart. Walmart's highly trustworthy. You can assume that it's not a scam. It appears to have the product in stock. So as far as meeting my needs, I would say that this page does a pretty good job. And as far as page quality, I would also say it does its job pretty well here. Now, what page would have the highest authority on the Nintendo Switch 2? Well, of course, it would be Nintendo. Beautiful layout. Pricing seems, I guess, not insanely high, right? Now, this could be a red flag if this price was, say, double what it should be. That could be an issue when it comes to, like, websites such as eBay or resellers. But the price is okay. The product... Let's see if the product's actually in stock. Can I actually not buy the product from Nintendo itself? Huh, okay, that kind of threw me for a loop. I kind of just assumed I could buy the product directly from Nintendo. So that actually would kind of maybe be a little bit of a ding, because it seems like I have to go through a third-party website to buy the product, making this result actually less useful than you might think. So while Nintendo might have the highest authority on the Nintendo Switch 2, it is definitely a hassle to buy the product through the website if I have to go to a third-party retailer. It's kind of wasting some time. You always want your results to sort of immediately meet your needs and the user's needs as well. Because why would you want a result to make you require clicking through to another website? It's kind of just a waste of time. You want it to be kind of a one-and-done thing here. This could also be like a special content block right here, Nintendo Switch 2, and then you can always click through these to see what appears. This gives some generic information, some reviews. These are always useful here. So how would I rate, let's say that these 3 here were a result block. Nintendo was result block 2. This would be result block 3. These top stories here would be 4. And then again, the Nintendo Switch 2 games. That's not the same as the Nintendo Switch up here. This would be 5. So these would not be identical, because I can almost guarantee that this takes me to a different page. Yeah, it's a different page, just the games. I would rate these 3 here probably somewhere to the medium to medium plus, because the only actual useful one was the Walmart one that seemed to have the product in stock. So as far as meeting my needs, I would say that these did basically immediately meet my needs. So, but you have to grade the block based on all 3 of these results. So this one sort of being a little bit more annoying might have been scored a little bit lower, and this one not having the product in stock would have lowered the overall block. And so you rate the block kind of based on the average of them, or if one of them's really bad, the lowest of them. So that's why this is closer to a medium plus, and not a high. As far as Nintendo Switch 2, the website would be the highest quality as far as page quality is concerned. But as far as meeting my needs, because I can't order the product directly through the website, I'm actually going to ding this down a little bit as far as meeting my needs, and it's not a fully meets. It will probably be closer to maybe high. And that's only because I can't buy the product through the website itself, so it would actually require a little bit more work. Granted, I didn't exactly specify that I want to buy the product, but you can kind of assume that I either want information on the product or to buy the product. So both of those intents should have been met here. Next, we have these three here. This is just some generic, what looks like news information about some random games here. For the Nintendo Switch 2, I'd probably rate this closer to maybe lowest plus to medium. It is just some useful tidbits of information, but it's not really relevant to the Nintendo Switch 2 itself. It's kind of more like discussing the game. So I would actually lower this block. Give it a lower score. Skip one. And then let's see here. Then we have the Nintendo Switch 2 games. Likewise, I didn't specify that I wanted the games. I actually wanted information on the Nintendo Switch. So again, this would receive more of a lowest plus score to maybe medium if I'm being very generous. This could not be a high score. Now the question is, could there be a fully meet score? And the answer is no, because like I said before, Nintendo Switch 2 is too generic. You can only really get a high to high plus if it has a lot of authority, a lot of good information, and also probably gave me a possibility to buy the product. The only way that this could be fully meets is if I said Nintendo Switch 2 and specified it further, so the price. Boom, this would be fully meets because this gave me the exact price. Of course, the prices can vary, but if it's a newer product, you can probably assume that it's going to be more or less right on the money. Or if I said specs, this could be fully meets if this is the actual correct specs of the Nintendo Switch 2, then this would be fully meets as well. And so when I'm asking something that's completely unambiguous and has a very clear and direct answer, and that result gives me that answer, that would be fully meets.